Hello, I'm Homer Kraut. Today's lesson is on teams and team building. A competent team is the key to any project. Normally, we deal with fixed requirements, designs, and product implementation. However, in working with teams, we're working with individuals and people. There's a high degree of variability in how people function, how they operate, and how they apply themselves to a particular project. Those of you who find yourself as team members or team leaders will find this area to be challenging and rewarding. Team building is both an art and a science. It takes an organization and a leader to build a team that will successfully complete a project. A competent team is the success to any project. It is a science in the sense that there are a lot of rules, a lot of guidelines, and information available that will tell you how to form and function within a team or as a team leader. It's an art in the sense that it takes skill to work with other people and understand their variabilities in the way they work within a team. You truly need both an individual to lead a team and individuals that work in a team that understand the process of teams and team management. Both the team member and the team leaders must be committed to their goals. We'll spend a few minutes talking about company organization, team building, brainstorming, and some tools that you can use. First, the company organization. A key factor in the success of any team project is support by the company organization. Your project will fail if the organization or your company does not support a particular project. Management at all levels must be committed. Management at project levels must be committed. People, resources, and time must be provided. Let's take a quick look at these. A lot of times management will say, here is a project, go forth and do it. And what they don't do is actively support it. You need resources, you need time, you need people, and you need an individual or an organization that actively supports what you're doing. The second point here is that management at all levels must be involved and at least support the project, or at a minimum, not actively work against it. It is difficult sometimes to run a project in an organization when you have to draw on resources that other people need. They must feel that they're involved in the project, and they must perceive that there's some return on their investment in terms of time or personnel. The company must commit resources, time, money, personnel, and what are the things that you need to actively work on and be successful at a project. When you commit individuals to a project, they must be committed for some specific period of time. If the project is very large, it may be 100% of their time. The project is very small, it may be that they're only committed 50% of their time, but you should be fully aware of what that percentage of time is that they'll be committed to your project and when you can have an individual to work on a project. Some questions that you might consider at this point. How would you, as a project leader or a team member, ensure that management is committed to the particular project? How would you as a team member contribute to a positive approach to this? An example might be If you're only working on a team 50% of the time, when you go back to work with your peers, you may spend time telling them the advantages of the project, why you're working on it, and what they will ultimately get out of it. And it may be that the company makes more money or there's a better product because of your involvement in a particular team. Let's take a look at team building. We will look at the evolution of a team, the mechanics of a team, selection and leadership, objectives, take a look at meetings, assignments, dynamics of a team, results in terms of output or what a team is expected to do, and evaluation. Okay, the first of these, I'll highlight what the subsets are, and then we'll go back and talk about them individually. So when a team is formed, we generally call the process of a team getting together and beginning to function storming. Then we norm in the sense that the team becomes working on daily activities. And then the team begins to perform what they were put together to do. Forming, generally it takes a little bit of a time. What you wind up doing is gathering a variety of experts, putting the team together and setting some general parameters that the team will function around. One of them may be you're working full-time on the team project or you're only working part-time on a team project. During the second phase, or storming, what you're going to wind up doing is developing the parameters, guidelines, and rules under which you will function as part of that particular team. This generally takes several days. It consists of getting acquainted, setting up standards, procedures, maybe establishing a room, how you're going to display information, and those types of things. During the norming phase, you take those things that you set out in the storming phase and you normalize them. You make sure that you can do them on a daily basis. At this point, if you find that a decision that you made during one phase is not correct or not quite working for you and the team, then you change it. But in this particular phase, you normalize things. You make sure that what you're going to be doing to working on this project works from day to day and moves you towards a successful completion. And the last, obviously, is performing. Mechanics. Team selection and leadership. We'll look at objectives. We'll take a quick look at meetings. We'll look at assignments. And we'll look at the dynamics of a team. And then finally, we'll look at the results and what we expect from an overview. Team selection and leadership. First, you need a good team leader or a project manager. Most of the time you'll hear the term leader and manager interchanged when we talk about this. So we talk about team leaders or team managers. A good project manager or a team leader is essential to the key success of the project. A good manager tends to be a leader, a guide, a mentor, manager, and generally knowledgeable in many areas. Individuals within the team need to be very knowledgeable. They need to be knowledgeable in their area of expertise, be willing to be cross-trained, and have a skill set that generally takes them beyond their work environment. They also need to be able to work within a group. When you select individuals for a team, the cross-section of individuals must represent project task. If you don't have the individuals that you need with the skill set, you will be hindered as you move through a particular project. Members should be dedicated, committed to a project. Too often when a manager is tasked to provide an individual for a team, they provide the individual in their particular organization or as part of their team that may not currently be meeting their requirements or the things that they need. What tends to happen in organizations is that when a team is put together and if sub-managers are allowed to select those team members, what you get is not quite the best option for working together in a team. Team leaders should have some input as to how and who is selected to working on a team. Members should be dedicated to a project. This generally means that they'll be expected to work no more than a normal workday, but in some cases, they may have some short work days, and there are some work days that you wind up working many hours over the time that you would be expected to work. This needs to be understood up front, and the team members need to be committed to doing this. When you select a team, they need to know what is going to be required of them, the standards that they're going to be expected to meet, and when there's an end time to the project. Some questions that you might consider at this point. If you were tasked to put together a team, how would you go about it? If you wanted to be on a team, how would you go about getting yourself selected to be a team member? How would you sell this idea as being part of a team? Project objectives should be clearly stated. Too often, we give very general guidelines to individuals working on a team or to the team itself as a set of goals. There needs to be a very, very specific set of goals, objectives, and requirements that a team can work towards. Once you have the overall goal and requirements of the team itself, the team objectives must be clearly stated. Each individual must know where they're headed, how they're going to get there, what resources they have to do that, when they're going to get there, and what standards they're going to be held to. Too often, we make open-ended objectives which result in open-ended requirements, and what we finally wind up giving to the individual that wants this particular task completed is not what they wanted. This is generally done through a requirements, design, product implementation, evaluation, and life cycle maintenance. We'll come back and talk about this particular later. As noted, objectives must be clearly understood. Desired outcomes must be cleared. You have to know what you want as an outcome in order to work towards that goal. Time limits should be imposed. I should note here that you should also impose budgetary limits. Too often we allow individuals to take on a project and we fail to impose either time or budgetary limits. You must make sure that you don't go over budget and over time. Some questions that you might ask at this particular point. How would you go about ensuring objectives and requirements are clearly understood? We're going to spend some time in a few minutes talking about brainstorming, and this is a technique that can be used for this. Another question that you might ask is how would you ensure that time limits are met? This is particularly critical in the sense that time can slip away from you if you're not careful. Meetings. An agenda for each meeting must be established. This is one of my favorite topics. I think in general meetings waste time. In a meeting of 60 minutes, you probably have 10 to 15 minutes of good information, and the rest of it is taken up on other topics in other areas. I'm not sure that it's good or bad. I just do think that when you have a meeting, you should spend time thinking about what the outcome should be. Meetings in general are to exchange ideas, inform of progress, and get input. Obviously, there are other kinds of meetings, but in general, these are the ones that you'll commonly find. If you're involved in a meeting, or if you're going to a meeting in which you would like to have a decision, you should do pre-meeting coordination as needed. What I mean is, if I'm going into a meeting and I want my peers to provide input on a decision, I will spend time walking around and talking with them ahead of time, allowing them to think about things, allowing them to provide input, so that when I go into a meeting, hopefully I have their support in getting the answer that I'd like to have. If by chance I haven't had time to do this, when I present an idea in a meeting, what I do is leave it open. I don't ask for an immediate decision so that I don't get a no when I really would like to have a yes. As noted prior, meetings should be time limited. If you have 60 minutes set aside for a meeting, you take 60 minutes for a meeting. If you have 30 minutes for a meeting, you take 30 minutes for a meeting. If it appears that you're going to exceed a time limit, then what you do is you say, we'll continue this particular subject, or have the individuals come and see you after the meeting. Meetings should be time limited both in length and when they meet. So if you have a regularly scheduled meeting every Monday at 9 o'clock, that's fine. Every Monday at 9 o'clock, there will be a 35-minute meeting. The purpose of the meeting is for you to update your peers on your progress, period. Assignments. Team members must have clear assignments. They must know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how what they're doing moves you towards team goals and end results. Team members should have an informal set of what they perceive as their job, and it should have been reviewed and approved by the team leader. There should be some negotiation here, but once you're settled in as a team member, you should have a clear set of direction and objectives as to what you're providing to a particular project. Must have some cross-training. This is critical. We all have been in a position where only one individual can do a particular task. And when that individual is gone, the task does not get completed. So what you need to do is to cross-train. As you look at your team members, you'll find that they have multiple skill sets. What you do is take advantage of those skill sets. You get your team members to work in areas where they have other expertise that will contribute to the team. And this may not be a skill set that they bring to the job or what they were hired for. So each individual in the team should be cross-trained to some degree in one area, if not multiple areas. You probably should not use the team member or team leader as a backup for an individual member or as the only backup in terms of cross-training. There should be an equitable balance of skills in a team. If you have a team that needs engineers and other individuals, you should not have all of one type or all of the other. As noted prior, there should be time limits on what you're accomplishing. Individuals that are selected for a team must be dedicated to the project, preferably 100% of the time, but certainly if you expect to have them 50% of the time, then you should know what 50% of the time that they would be available for your use and when. As a note here, most projects fail because they come in over time, over budget, and fail to meet requirements. And in general, better than 70% of all large projects fail to meet one of those criteria. Team dynamics. This is a critical aspect. All of you work or generally work with other people. You must monitor the dynamics of a teamwork. And if possible, you should manage tasks to individuals. This is a good skill set for a team leader or team manager. Constant monitoring is critical. Most individuals have a range of skill sets. A lot of us have things that we like to do and we don't like to do. A good manager manages tasks to those skill sets. As an example, if you have team members that are good with analytical skills, you might put them to doing analysis. You might have another team member that is good at administrative skills, and you put them, and they enjoy it, and you put them to use doing administrative types of things. Now, they probably shouldn't do that exclusively, but at least you have someone doing that they want, what they like, with a good skill set doing it. Results. Bottom line is you must meet your objectives. A clear statement of results must be given. Results count. If you don't do what you set out to do and you don't meet the requirements, both the team and the project fail to meet what is expected of them. Here's a question for you though. Can you think of any type of a project in which the results might not be clearly observable? We'll address this issue later. This is a tough one. We as individuals don't care very much to evaluate other people. We need to evaluate members. We need to evaluate the tasks. We need to evaluate progress. And we need to evaluate the team as a whole. This must be done in an impartial, logical, fair, clear manner so that everyone on the team, everyone involved, knows what the evaluation criteria are and everyone is held to the same standard. Evaluation should be both formal and informal. Formal in the sense that there's a written evaluation of each individual, the team as a whole, and how you're moving towards the project on a regularly scheduled basis. Informal in the sense that you are constantly evaluating individuals as they apply themselves to a project and move their skill sets and what they're doing towards a successful outcome. It needs to be objective. It needs to be impersonal. It needs to be based on facts. And it needs to be directed towards a positive outcome. Anyone can give negative feedback. A good team leader directs, guides, and evaluates in a positive manner. Where requirements and objectives met. The bottom line is, when you finish a project, was it on time? Was it within budget? And were the requirements met or exceeded? That's the only question that you need to answer as you finish working on a project with a team. Let's look at a major tool for developing and working with teams within projects. Brainstorming is a key activity for developing and designing and working with teams and moving towards an end goal. It allows you to explore ideas that may lead to a better outcome. Brainstorming is where ideas, thoughts, and perceptions are hammered into functional requirements. The whole process can be and should be a satisfactory process, if not enjoyable. Most people have a comfort zone, and brainstorming tends to move you outside of that comfort zone. Brainstorming must be accomplished in a positive manner. Most organizations will bring in an outside individual to mediate or to monitor or to lead brainstorming sessions. This is a good way to gather input, develop ideas, encourage out-of-the-box thinking, and start integrating individuals as part of a team. This process can be very lengthy and time-consuming. Brainstorming creates an environment where creativity grows, allows everybody to contribute. It reinforces participation, both as part of the brainstorming session and as part of the team. Brainstorming also ensures that reality prevails and not opinions. Assist weak members in participating. Weak is probably not the best word here. We tend to say that people sit in the back of the room and don't talk very loud or contribute very much, or a little weaker than others. A lot of times these are the people that are thinking. So what we do in this particular exercise and encourage everyone to participate. The thing that you probably need the most is to keep those that are the talkers, the strong ones, hold them back at least temporarily. It takes a special skill set to do this, and this is one of the reasons that you bring in an outside moderator, to ensure that these individuals, both those that do not talk a lot and those that want to talk all of the time, are managed and allowed to present their ideas in an equitable fashion. Some questions you might think about at this point. How would you motivate or encourage those members that don't speak up very much or very well? How would you, as a team leader, manage the strong ones? How would you keep them from taking over a meeting? And an interesting side question to this is, how would you expect the interaction between these two types of individuals and other team members to affect the outcome? Brainstorming assists people in listening openly to suggestions. Excuse me, we go back. And it also fosters the group to take responsibility for its actions. Brainstorming, as noted, is a key activity, and it allows a team as part of a group to work together towards an end goal. It also allows team members to know each other, to figure out how to work with each other, and to have a sense of responsibility to the group. Some conditions under which this is done. All are created equal. Too often we sit in meetings with very strong individuals, very knowledgeable individuals, or even a boss or a supervisor, and they are the only ones that are listened to or that put forth opinions. In a brainstorming environment, all are created equal. That means that everyone's ideas are considered as part of the process. All ideas are equal. That means that no idea is taken one or the other or thrown out just because it comes from an individual. One nice thing about brainstorming, if it's conducted correctly, is that all comments must be positive. Sometimes that's a little difficult. When you're looking at ideas, each idea should be considered from the perspective of the individual that is presenting it. It should be considered from a validity perspective. Is the idea valid? It may be out in left field, but is it valid? Does it contribute a thought that brings you towards end goals of the process? As noted, all comments should be positive. Even if you have to say something negative, at least put it in a positive tone. As an example, I like your idea and the point is valid, but how does it fit to this particular project? Use a flip chart. What you need to do is to put ideas, thoughts, and the process of brainstorming up on a wall so that everyone can see it. These are generally called flip charts. As you make your flip charts, you take them and put them up on a wall. You pin or stick completed flip charts or sheets around the walls of a room. This allows you to keep visible records. In all fairness, at some point, all of this information should be written down or recorded so that it can be addressed later. As you review this in a visible manner, you can use magic markers, you can use pens, you can add to ideas, you can categorize ideas, you can scratch out ideas, you can look around a room where they have flip charts or paper that is taken out of a flip chart with ideas on it, and you can see how thoughts, ideas, and input has progressed into something solid that will lead towards impact on a product or a process that you're working on. Everyone should be able to see this. Here's a couple of questions that you might ask. How does this concept fit in with your organization? Is your organization open to this? If it were modified slightly, would your organization be in a better position to accept this kind of process? As you work through the brainstorming session, split your writing task between team members. Have refreshments brought to a brainstorming session or room. A working lunch is a whole lot better, and you generally get a whole lot done if you have people standing around and discussing ideas and thoughts that they just talked about in a few minutes prior to that. As you split your task between writing tasks between team members, be careful in that you don't select individuals whose written script is not very good. Working coffee breaks are also a good way for individuals to exchange ideas, discuss, and present individual information. One of the things that happens over time is that when we have formal meetings and formal groups, individuals don't have a chance to exchange or discuss information until they go into things like breaks and lunch. This is a good way to exchange ideas and have information worked on by individuals in a group. As you work in a group, you need to apply pressure to all members to participate. This is one of the reasons that we ask or try to have a moderator host brainstorming sessions. Sometimes it's very difficult for a boss or a peer to apply pressure to a member to participate. And in some cases, where individuals have been tasked to participate as part of a brainstorming session and they're not 100% enthused with the idea, it's very difficult. As part of this process, you should hunt for suggestions. Everyone must participate to some degree. Talkers, those that are quiet, the mediators, the experts, and a moderator will integrate those people with ideas and thoughts. Here's an example for you in brainstorming. I would tell people that everyone must present 2 ideas on a thought. One of them must be positive, one of them must be negatively stated in a positive manner, and that no particular idea can be addressed twice. It's nice if you're the first person that does this, but if you're the last of 30 people that do this, it's a bit more of a challenge. Okay, that was brainstorming. Let's take a look at some tools that will allow you to move through this process efficiently. This can be a broad subject, and we're only going to address it very briefly. Tools for tracking performance. PERT charts, program evaluation and review charts. Most of you have probably heard of these prior. And if you haven't, and you stay in the business world and work in teams, you'll become infinitely familiar with them. Critical path method, and one or two others that will support and assist you in moving towards a common goal. We'll look at each of these in a little detail. PERT charts. In general, in today's world, data that supports a PERT chart, program evaluation and review technique now. In general, data that is collected in today's world that supports these is done in a computer. What you need to do is ensure that data is collected, and then you need to put this in a form that can be seen. And the easiest way are large charts that can be put up on the wall. They allow you to see progress of a project or a process at a glance. They are generally computer-based with a wall-based diagram for daily use. PERT charts are statistical tools designed to analyze and represent tasks in a project or a process. The tool was actually developed in the 1990s and is one of the more widely used tools in the business world, particularly where you have ongoing projects or processes that need to be monitored on a continual basis. Good PERT charts are capable of calculating a critical path. They track time, resources, completions, and the critical path. CPM. The critical path is the one in which activities, time, and dependencies take the longest path through a project. Now, this can be fairly complex, but think of it this way. You're working on a project, and there is one absolute critical factor in terms of time, in terms of materials delivered, and in terms of implementation that has to be done before the project can be completed. That's a critical path. In general, critical path includes a list of the activities, the time of each activity, activity dependencies, and it shows you that there is only or a path through a project that is dependent totally to be done. A project can have multiple paths. Critical paths can be parallel. If there's a path within a PERT chart that is less time consuming and less critical than a critical path, then it is a subpath. Time has a significant impact on the critical path method. If you're interested in these, either the PERT or CPM, I encourage you to take a look at a good project management book or manual and take some time to study what these do. If you work in a project, these will have an impact on what you do, and you'll become familiar with them. Summary. The team will make or break a project. If you have a good functioning team that can move towards an outcome that is logical and meets requirements, the team will make or break it. You must have organization support. If you don't have organization support, you'll fail. You must have a clear, understandable objectives. You must manage time and resources, and you must be held accountable. As noted, brainstorming is a key activity of any team. If you have additional questions or need any more information, please visit our university website.